the materials that you're going to need today to make one of these bookmarks then. So you'll need a brayer, some masking tape, a craft knife, a pair of needle nose pliers or something similar, some little metal rings, some heat resistant tape, a weeding tool, some HTV or iron-on of your choice. I am using this patterned iron-on from Cricut. Then you'll need some leatherette or faux leather. This is what I've used for Shelby's bookmark. I bought this scraps kit from Creative Craft Supplies at a recent show at the NEC, and there was lots of different pieces of faux leather in there for £3. I've got my heat press mat, I've got my Cricut Easy Press Mini, and I've got my hot glue gun ready, so that is heating up nicely for when we're all done. So this is the template that I've been using. I've just made this on Cricut Design Space by just using some shapes. So I'll just quickly show you how to do it. It's just a basic shape. So just go onto the shapes menu, and then it's just this free rectangle here. And then all I've done is just stretched this out to be the size that I want it to be. So if we unlock this little padlock here, and then we can stretch it out, let's make it roughly the same size. So mine is just under 15 centimetres by about 5 centimetres. So that's about there. And then all I've done is just got myself a little circle. Again, from the shapes menu, I've just made that quite small to about 7mm, 8mm, something like that. I'm just going to change the colour of that so that you can see it a little bit better. Alright, so now I've got my circle. What I'm going to do is just rotate this rectangle just by going up to the top. I'm just typing in 90 degrees and then hit enter. And then what I want to do is just grab my little circle. I'm going to pop it in the middle there. It's not going to be exactly in the centre. Just put it up a bit. So what I'm going to do is just select both of those items. You can see they're both selected because their layers are now highlighted in a pale grey on the right hand side. If I now go up to a line and then I centre that horizontally, it puts that circle in the dead centre of that rectangle just there. Let's just select them both again. And now you can see at the bottom, slice is available to us. So we can just click on slice. And now you can see on the right hand side in the layers panel, we've got some slice results. So there's 3 slice results there. Let's just move the rectangle out of the way, and you can see it's now cut a hole through there. So we can get rid of those circles. Let's change the colour on that again back to another colour. So I'm going to make this one yellow. Let's go over to text, and we can put our message on there, the name of the person that we're going to give it to, or we can, put a picture there like I have on Shelby's one. So on Shelby's I've put a little sunflower. Okay, so I've just typed in Nanny, and I'm going to change my font on there. Okay, so I've chosen the font Grow Over, BFC Grow Over, and if you follow Cricut on Instagram, they posted on Saturday, I think it was, with 4 or 5 different fonts that are new to Cricut Design Space. So I screenshot that particular story so that I could save those fonts to look at them on my screen. So that is one of the fonts that they were advertising on Instagram at the weekend. So this is BFC Grow Over. So if I now just click back on my yellow bookmark, I'm just going to use the handle to rotate this time rather than putting the position in with the degrees. Let's just put that on there. We could make Nanny a little bit bigger, I think. And then let's get some images from here. What shall we have? Let's have a look. What nice hearts we could have. I want something quite simple, so I'm just going to have that little heart and add that onto the canvas. And let's make it a bit smaller. The The reason that I want a solid heart is because I'm using a patterned HTV, so I want the pattern to show up quite nicely on there. So I'm going to change the colour of Nanny as well. Let's make it this lilac-y colour, and let's change the colour of that heart as well. Okay. Right, so let's just select the Nanny and the heart, and we're going to group those two together. So let's hide these ones by just getting rid of those. This piece here is actually the tassel that we're going to put on the end of the bookmark here. So you could either make your own, or this one I've just copied and pasted it out of the tassel earring, or is it the tassel earring or the tassel keychain project? So you can do that as well and just use that. So what we want to do now is just go on to make it up in the right hand corner. So it wants us to do the tassel first, but I don't want to do the tassel first. I want to do the actual bookmark piece. So back on the screen then, what I'm going to do is move the tassel now so that it's on that first mat as well. So it's going to do the cut at the same time. Let's confirm that. So that's on there as well. What we want to do is just move that down to there. I'm going to turn it round so that it doesn't waste any of the leather, and we're just going to put it close to itself so it's right there and it's not going to waste any of our leather. And this is going to cut quite close up into the corner of the mat as well. It's going to cut up here and round. So what we want to do is just make sure that we've got sufficient edging there to make sure it's going to cut properly. Let's click on continue. Now what we need to do is choose our materials. So if we go over to browse all materials, and we can just look through and see what is available. I'm going to choose the faux suede for this because faux leather is paper thin on here, and this isn't paper thin, it's quite a thick one. Okay, so just want to take a look at the settings for this faux suede. So if I go down to here and click on that, and then I click on material settings here, I'm wondering whether to change it to this one and use the rotary blade, because I used the fine point blade on the other one and I needed to give it 2 passes, so I'm thinking I might use the first one. Let's select that and done. So let's grab our piece of faux leather that we're going to use for this. So as I said before, I bought mine from creativecraftsupplies.co.uk. They were actually exhibiting at a show at the NEC a few weeks ago that I went to. These are their details if you're interested. So this pack of faux leather cost me £3, and it's a lovely pack of different colours, about half an A4 sheet there or thereabouts. I'm going to use this orange one for myself in a moment, but I'm thinking what I might do is it in white for Nanny. So let's grab the white piece, and then what we're going to use is just a standard grip mat. When you're cutting faux leather on your Cricut, what you'll want to do is make sure that your piece of faux leather is placed face down. So this is the leather side, and I'm going to place it face down on my mat, just there, because I want to make sure that the Cricut isn't going to mark my faux leather when it cuts. What I'm going to do now is just braid that down, and then I'm also going to get some masking tape, and I'm going to stick the piece of faux leather down onto the mat like I would if I was using chipboard or anything like that. So I've got thicker masking tape today, so I'm just going to cut it in half and just carefully stick that down onto the mat, just to ensure that it isn't going to move during its cutting process, because if it does move it's going to bunch up and then it's going to jam up your machine, and that is never fun. Seeing that red light come on is the scariest thing ever. Let's just pop that piece onto there as well. just do what we do when we're using chipboard, and I just run my nail down the side just to make sure it's really well adhered. And then again, that piece on that side, I'm just going to cut that off there. All right then, that is fabulous. Just make that stick down nicely. So this is the rotary blade that comes with the Cricut Maker, or did used to come with the Cricut Maker. I'm not sure if it comes with the Maker 3 now, but this is the one that I'm going to use. So this basically looks a lot like a scoring wheel, and a lot of people do get it confused with the scoring wheel when they first get their machine. But the difference with this and the scoring wheel is that this is not a quick swap housing. This is a permanent fixed housing. It doesn't have the plunger on the top for you to be able to use a quick swap tip on it. So we're going to pop this into clamp B on the machine. So I'm going to take out my fine point blade and replace it with this one right now. It's really easy to change over your tools, so just take the clamp on clamp B and open it up. Take your tool out. You can see there's something stuck on the end of my fine point blade, so I just want to get that off, and that will be from the first bookmark that I made. So that just goes to show it's always a really good idea to just double check your blade when you've used it. So we're ready on the screen to go. So what we can do is just insert the mat, and then what we want to do is just press go. Okay, so once that cut has finished, there's a couple of different ways to check that the cut has gone through. So we can just grab our weeding tool, and what we can do is just lift up a section of the cut and just see, and that looks pretty good to me. You can see that's cut quite well. I'm just going to quickly check this as well. This is the tassel that we've made, and I don't think it's cut very well at all because I think it's messed up, but what we can do is just take that off, and if needs be we can cut that again using the fine point blade, because I think it's actually shredded it up a little bit. So let's eject the mat and have a look at it back on the desk. Okay then, let's have a quick look at what has happened with this cut. So we can just lift this piece up and out, and that has cut really nicely, and so has the circle. You can see that's a lovely cut, and it looks really nice. Now the problem that we've got with the tassels, I think what's happened is the rotary blade has actually overshot itself, and I'm going to have lots of tiny little pieces here. So it's cut the tassels, but it's actually cut the tops off, which is no good. So we're going to have to cut that again, and I'm going to use the fine point blade for it. I thought I might have been saving a little bit of time with using the rotary blade on that, but obviously it is not a very good one to use when you're making a small tassel. So if we just get all this off the mat, let's lift up this piece. It's cut it lovely, but it's just cut it all into tiny strips, which of course isn't what we wanted. So let's just grab a scraper, let's get rid of that off there, and then throw that away. Okay, so that was a bit of a fail, wasn't it? But never mind. Let's just cut a little piece off here, and we can use this now. This is big enough, look, to make a tassel with. So I'm just going to pop this back onto the mat up at the top here. Let's get some more masking tape. I'll mask it down and I'll cut it on the fine point blade, and I'll come back to you once that's done. Okay, so I've cut this out now using the fine point blade. So I'm going to take the masking tape off of my faux leather again. This should have cut a bit better this time. I did give it 2 passes, so when I checked my cut I gave it another pass just to make sure that it was done, because the first time it wasn't. You can see how it doesn't really cut along the bottom that well, but we can sort that out ourselves. Let's just take it off the mat and pop this out of the way. Okay, so this is what the tassel looks like. I'm just going to try and pull that off there, but it's not coming off, so I'm going to just use my craft knife just to free up those tassels a little bit. A couple of them haven't cut on the ends, but that's okay. It was a lot more successful than doing it with the rotary blade. And then if you've got any that are a bit still sort of stuck together, like you can see that one there is a bit stuck together, you can just run your craft knife down that. And I did have to do that when I did the first one as well, so we just can see that those are all nicely separated. It has cut much better using the fine point blade for this intricate cut, but when you're making something that's a bit bigger and a little bit more simple like this one, I would recommend using the rotary blade. So that is the settings to definitely use on there. Right, so now we need to do the second part of the cut. So let's just hop back into Design Space, and then what we need to do is do our second mat, which is this purple one here. So I'm just going to click on Edit there so that we can look at this. So because we're using an iron-on material today, we need to mirror our design. So we could have mirrored it on the mat. I am a big fan of mirroring on the mat. So when I do that, I just flip my design and it just puts it mirror image, so that then I haven't got to worry about mirroring it at this stage, because it's really, really easy to forget. So what I'm going to do now is just click on mirror at the bottom here, and you can see it's just flipped the design backwards, and then that is ready to be cut using some iron-on material. Let's click on done. And we need to change our material at the top here. So if we click on that browse all materials again, so the material that I'm using is Cricut patterned iron-on, and it's a good idea to try and get your material settings to be as close to the material that you're actually using. So if I just type in patterned, you can see there is patterned iron-on there. So let's click on done again. And it does remind you at this stage to make sure that your project is mirrored and that your iron-on material is face down, and that's really important. So I'll show you that next. So this is the patterned iron-on that I'm going to be using today. It is a Cricut branded one, and it's one that I actually received in a Cricut material mystery box last summer. I'll link to that video above for you if you haven't seen it. It was really interesting to order that mystery box and to see what came, and this is one of the items in it, and this is perfect for this sort of project. So the Shelby one that I did there, I used this one with all the dots and stuff on, and you can see that there. I do wish that the pattern was a little bit more dense on the flower so you could see it a bit more, but it's still really pretty. The one I'm going to use for this, because this is a sampler, is this spotty one, I think, because I think that will look really nice against that white. So let's just get that sheet out of there. Alright, so when we're using iron-on, we need to familiarise ourselves a little bit with the material. So this is the pattern that we're going to see on our bookmark when it's cut out, and as you can see, this side is very shiny. Now this particular iron-on has its own carrier sheet, which basically works as its transfer paper or its transfer tape. So when we cut it out, we need to make sure that we're cutting on the opposite side here. So we want to place our iron-on face down onto the mat. So if we pop the mat there, then we can just get our piece of iron-on and just pop it up in the corner and just line it up as best we can, and then get the brayer and just give it a nice roll to make sure that it's well adhered to that mat. If it does need any extra help with a bit of masking tape, it won't hurt. Just put a bit on the corner just to make sure that it is holding that material really nicely onto that mat. Now that that cut's finished, I can see where the design is, so I'm just going to take this off of the mat there, and I'm just going to trim away all of that excess HTV that we've got on there. So I'm just going to use a pair of scissors and just cut that. Before I took this out of the machine, I did just check that it had cut all the way through, and I did give it a second pass just to be on the safe side. Now is the time then, if you haven't already, to get your heat press switched on and also your glue gun on. Because I'm using the Easy Press Mini today, I'm going to refer to the Cricut Heat guide online, and I've actually got it up on the screen already, and I've put in my materials already, but I will show you how to do that. So if you go on to Cricut.com and then /heat guide, it will bring up this particular page, and all you need to do is select the item that you are using. So there's the Easy Press 2, there's the original Easy Press on here at the moment, the Cricut Easy Press Mini, and the Mug Press as well. And then all you need to do is choose your material. So I've already chosen patterned iron-on, and then my base material is faux leather. And if you just click then on apply, and it tells you what setting to start your heat press off on and for how long. So it says to put it on low. So let's do that now. So here's the Easy Press Mini. If you have one of these, you'll know if you press this button once, it will come onto the first one, twice it'll come onto the second setting, and 3 times and it'll come on to the third setting. The 4th press will turn it off. I'm going to turn it on to 1 heat bar and just leave that in there to get heated up. Once it's ready, those lights will turn green. So I'm just going to put that to one side for now. And then going back to the heat guide, it tells us on here that we want to keep the Easy Press moving constantly and just give light pressure. The HTV here is cool peel, so we need to wait for it to cool down before we try to take that carrier sheet off. And then, did you hear the beep then? The lights have turned green now, so that is ready to go. It takes a few seconds to heat up as well, so that's pretty good. So now that that's heating up and it's getting itself ready, we are going to weed this vinyl. So let's just pull up the corner with our weeding tool. And I love HTV for how easy it is to weed. You can just pull away that excess vinyl on there. And then you'll just need to go in and take out any little centres of the letters. The little bit there that hasn't cut quite as clean as I'd like. So I'm just going to use a craft knife just to give that a little slice out there to make that how I want it. But this is waste, we can't really use that for anything now. I have got my Cricut pressing mat here that I'm going to use for this. So let's bring back the bookmark and just pop that on there, and then I've got my little design here. So if you've used HTV before, you might remember that usually the carrier sheet is actually sticky. So this bit here that is acting as like the transfer tape is normally sticky, but with this particular Cricut vinyl it's not sticky. So we're going to have to use some heat resistant tape to make sure that our design stays in exactly the right position when we're pressing it. So if we just get a couple of pieces of this, you can buy this on Amazon. It's about £7 a roll, I think, off from memory. Actually, it might not be that much. Can't really remember how much I paid for it, but I will link it down below for you anyway. So you want to get your piece of HTV nicely lined up there. I can't remember, I think I had it the other way around, didn't I? But it doesn't matter. Okay, let's just pop that on there, and this will just hold that design onto that faux leather there perfectly. Just going to stick that down. Cricut do one of these and it's blue. I've never used it because this one was better value for money, but I don't expect it makes that much of a difference. Okay, so let's move the scissors. We are ready to press. So what we need to remember to do is keep the press moving, and we want to do that as well so that we don't melt the faux leather. So let's grab the Easy Press Mini and just keep going over it. We don't want it to melt, we want to keep that texture on there as much as we can. We're going to do it for about 30 seconds, I'm not going to count. That should do it. Okay, let's just let it cool because it is cool peel. And that constant movement just ensures that you don't melt your faux leather. Let's peel that back a little bit. So we want to wait for it to cool down, but we can take off our tape. So we don't need that on there now. Okay, let's peel that back. There we go, and you can see the little pattern on there looks really, really cute. I might go over it a little bit more just on this A, because I can see there's a tiny bit that hasn't quite stuck all that well. So I'm just going to pop that back down onto there and just go over that a little bit more. Just to give it a little bit more of a press there. We don't need to worry too much about it cooling once we've already lifted the mat off. So that looks wonderful. Let's now get on to making our tassel. I'm going to turn the heat press off and let that cool down to one side. Let's move the mat out of the way as well, because we don't want to get glue on that. So this is our little tassel that we've made. What we need to do first of all is just get this. This is going to act as the loop to attach onto our bookmark. So what we want to do is fold that over and just glue that into place. So I'm just going to grab my glue gun and I'm going to put a tiny blob, as small as I can manage, on there, and I'm just going to fold that over. Just be really, really careful when you're doing this not to burn your fingers. You could use some tweezers if you've got them, because that would be really, really helpful. It's quite a lot of glue trail. Then what you want to do is roll up your tassel. So let's get it as tight as we can, and as I've folded it over, I'm going to put a tiny little bit of glue again in there, just to get me started with my rolling, and just to give it a little bit more stability when it's rolling. Let's roll that up, and as I'm going, I'm going to just add a little bit of glue on the inside here, just so that I can glue it as I go. If you get any glue coming out the top, it doesn't matter too much, because you can always cut that off with your craft knife afterwards. You could make these little tassels into earrings as well, if you've got some earring fitments or whatever. There we go. And then when you get to the very, very end, you want to put a nice decent sized blob of glue on the inside of that last part of the tassel. Right there. Let's try and get a piece that's a bit not that big. There we go. Let's get a nice blob on there, and then just make sure that is sealed up nicely. I'm just going to hold that for a couple of seconds just while that sets. And you can see I've got a bit of overspill of glue just on that edge there, but I'm not worried too much about that, because I'm going to slice that out with my craft knife in a moment. So now that is dry, let's just pop that to one side. I'm just going to grab one of these tiny little O-rings. These are out of a jewellery set that I bought a while ago from Amazon, and then I'm going to just use my needle nose pliers to just open that ring up, and then just slot that onto my little tassel, and then I can put that onto my bookmark, and again just get those little pliers and close that ring up, and there's the tassel. So now I've got two really beautiful personalised bookmarks that I can give, one to Shelby and one to Nanny later on, and I think they'll both really, really like those. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, I'd love to see you again for the next one. So don't forget to drop me any questions, comments down below. Subscribe and hit the like button if you have enjoyed this video. I'd love to see your projects as well, so head on over to Instagram and tag me in your pictures. The link to my Instagram is down below in the description, as well as all of the materials and items that we have used today. So have a great week, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you really soon. Bye!